Tashidale, and welcome to the Awam Tibetan Buddhist Institute and our Sunday morning meditation hour this morning with the Dharma Talk, which we will be continuing discussion of the ethics in terms of Tantra and also go into Dzogchen as a part of that. But to get started, first we will sound the conch to invite all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to join us. And then we start with the blessing mantra. If you don't have a copy of the text, you can get it from our website at awaminstitute.org and download it from our resources page. So we begin with the blessing mantra. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimanasara Maha Zambaba Humpit Soha. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimanasara Maha Zambaba Humpit Soha. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimanasara Maha Zambaba Humpit Soha. Homage to Samattabhadra and Samattabhadri, because I suffer due to my own actions and I now have this precious human life without knowing when I will die. I will now engage in virtuous actions for the benefit of all sentient beings with joy and devotion. Therefore, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, in order to enable all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, in order to enable all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, in order to enable all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow, and may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, and may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow, and may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Vajrasattva and Vajratopa appear above me, purifying me and all beings and phenomena with nectar from the place of their union. 100-syllable mantra. Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tenopa Tishtatuiro Me Bawa Sutokayo Me Bawa Supokayo Me Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Chitin Shriya Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavam Tavatata Kata Benze Mame Munzam Benze Bawa Maha Sumaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tenopa Tishtadrito Me Bawa Sutokayo Me Bawa Supokayo Me Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Chitim Shriya Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Tavetata Kata Benze Mame Munzam Benze Bawa Mahasamaya Sato Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tenopa Tishtadrito Me Bawa Sutokayo Me Bawa Supokayo Me Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sarva Siddhi Me Prayata Sarva Karma Sutta Me Chitim Shriya Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savatata Kata Benze Mame Munza Benze Bawa Maha Samaya Sato Mandala offering. Om Ahom. In the Dharmakaya pure realm, Dharmadhatu equality, the realms of the five Sambhogakaya families self-arise. unobstructedly, along with the array of Nirmanakaya pure realms that fill all of space. All this I offer as Samattabhadra's clouds of great bliss. Om Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaya Ahom. Short 7-minute prayer. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, requesting, and praying for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Home, in the northwest of the land of Oregon, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as the lotus-born, surrounded by many hosted dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come and bless me with your grace. Guru Pema Siddhi Home. Home, in the northwest of the land of Oregon, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as the lotus-born, surrounded by many hosted dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come and bless me with your grace. Guru Pema Siddhi Home. Home, in the northwest of the land of Oregon, in the heart of a lotus flower, endowed with the most marvelous attainments, you are renowned as the lotus-born, surrounded by many hosted dakinis. Following in your footsteps, I pray to you, come and bless me with your grace. Guru Pema Siddhi Home. And then the mantra for the mala. Om Ahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Home. 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 Om Ahum Vizagarupa Vizadi Hum. 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 And we continue on page 3. Light radiates from the Guru's 4 places into my 4 places, purifying my body, speech, mind, and all subtle obscurations, granting the 4 empowerments and planting the 4 seeds. The Guru dissolves into light and merges inseparably into myself. So we dissolve the visualization, just rest in the natural state, pure awareness. If any distractions arise, just let them go and refocus your attention. We'll meditate for about 5 minutes. Well, here we are once again, and our Dharma talk today is about the ethics. We're continuing that. Hopefully we'll get through the rest of the talk today as a part of that. We're going to start off, complete the Tantra section, and then we'll go into the Dzogchen. But to put the broader context, we started looking at it in terms of the path of individual liberation, where we focused primarily on the 10 wholesome actions in that list. There's some slight variations, but they're pretty universal in terms of the tradition and address issues related to body, speech, and mind as a part of that. And then we looked at the Bodhisattva vows, 18 Bodhisattva vows, and the commitment to doing things particularly for the benefit of others. And so when we put those two together, the individual liberation and the Bodhisattva view, we have do good or at least do no harm for the benefit of all beings. So that becomes a kind of a universal principle, and then the lists become details that we can use to help as a part of that. In Tantra, last week we started looking at that, and we talked a little bit about the concept of pure view of experiences that we have. And then we also looked at the 14 root downfalls of that and the 4 empowerment vows. So several different pieces of Tantra. Tantra has more lists of things as a part of that, but they overlap a great deal with all of the other ones. So you begin to see how those things work together in many different ways. The unique feature of Tantra is that it takes a view of transformation, transforming things that we normally would view as not good into something that is good. And so last week we also then started these 25 branch samayas, which are very much embedded in that kind of a view. And we started off the first, and it's 25, so it's 5 sets of 5. And so we looked at the first 2 of those. And so the first set were the 5 to recognize. And those were the 5 aggregates, 5 elements, 5 kayas, 5 wisdoms, 5 male and female Buddhas. So different things of 5 that we recognize in the context of Tantra practice. The next set of 5 were those not to be rejected. And so those are things like the 5 poisons are a part of that. The 5 wisdoms were a part of that. And within those, you have different aspects. For example, the 5 poisons looked at delusion, desire, anger, pride, and greed. And then how they can become helpers on the path, they transform into the 5 wisdoms of the 5 Buddha families. And so the Dharma Dhatu, the sphere of a sphere or space of absolute reality, the mirror-like wisdom, equanimity, discriminating wisdom, all-accomplishing wisdom, when they are embraced by skillful means. So those were the things that we talked about primarily last week. And so now we go on to the third set of 5, those 5 to be undertaken with unselfish motives. And so the first one is to take life. What, you say? Wait a minute, I thought we weren't supposed to do that. Now remember, what we're talking about in Tantra is how we transform these things. So here, to take life means to interrupt the prana, the life force that we have, by doing a practice of vase breathing. So in doing that, we're interrupting our normal breathing practice. So that's taking a life, so to speak. Or to cut dualistic thinking by means of pristine awareness. So we change the way that we're thinking, which also relates to life. The next one is to take what is not given, or to steal. And in this case, we steal bliss from the consort, whether real or imagined, in doing the practice. And then the third one is to engage in sexual misconduct. Not supposed to do that normally, but here we're talking about bliss through the Tsalung practices of channels, winds, and drops. And in the process of doing that practice, then while uniting with the consort, whether real or imagined, as a part of that, then that is a way of transforming sexual misconduct. And then to lie is to say that all living beings are already liberated. They already have Buddha nature. They're liberated into pure view. And then the fifth one is to utter harsh words. Again, another thing that we were told not to do. But here, it's from the inexpressible state of pure spiritual accomplishment. And so there are no words. So it's an ineffable form of uttering harsh words as a part of that. So in each case, it's taking something that is considered inappropriate and doing something that is similar but more appropriate in the Buddhist context. So then we go on to the 5 to accept. These are the fourth in the list, the fourth category of 5. And these are things beyond the idea of either clean or dirty, because they are the pure nature of reality itself. And so it takes the form of the 5 aggregates. We had the 5 aggregates in another context, but here the 5 aggregates. And so the first 2 of those kind of run together. So we partake in the essence of the red and white bodhicitta, which are sometimes described as blood and semen, but here they are form and feelings, the first 2 of the 5 aggregates. So we partake in form and feelings. And then the second one refers to excrement, but here it's transformed into perceptions. So we participate in perception. The next one, the fourth one, is urine. And so here that transforms into thoughts or mental formations. And then finally, the last one is human flesh, or marrow of bone in some cases. And that transforms into consciousness itself. So these are all for the purpose of purifying the concepts of things we normally think of as unclean into something that is clean. And so these 5 are a mix of what is known as the 5 meats and the 5 nectars in the tradition. And again, we see in the Tantric approach of taking something that's normally rejected and transforming them into something viewed as beneficial to our practice. So here, what is being transformed is the very idea of attachment and aversion, the 2 of the 3 poisons. And so these are the sources of the other one, discontent. And so by doing this, it's viewed as getting rid of all of those sources and eliminating them so that we attain enlightenment. And then the last 5 are the 5 to be cultivated. Cultivate them as the 5 samayas, or vows of meditation, by realizing and growing familiar with the 5 Buddha families. And we talked a little bit about the 5 Buddha families. So this last set of 5, we're simply told to cultivate our understanding of the 5 Buddha families, and the representation in sets of 5, and there are many of those. You can find lists on the internet. You can find a couple different versions of the lists in my book, on Innate Happiness. You can find them in lots of different places, and they represent various key concepts of Tibetan Buddhism, such as the 5 Buddhas, the 5 aggregates that we were just looking at, the 5 consorts, and so forth as a part of those. So, get the next page. Sorry, the 5 elements, the 5 colors, the 5 locations where those 5 Buddha families exist and abide. 5 symbols, 5 mudras, 5 poisons, 5 wisdoms, 5 activities, and so forth. So again, there are lists that go through the details of those, the 5 for each of the different families as a part of all of that. So the general principle in terms of Tantra, again, is this idea of transformation. All negative things are, in essence, pure in their essence. You could say emptiness, a lack of inherent self-existence. They're independent and or permanent kinds of views of things. So that concludes the talk on the Tantra aspect of ethics. And of course, you can go much, much deeper into that. There are so many different things that we could look at. But now we're going to go ahead and go into the Dzogchen view and the view of ethics from the Dzogchen point of view. So to complete this, we need to briefly note that the highest principles of wholesome behavior transcend even those I have described before. So we're pushing this even higher in terms of this. In transcendent wisdom, there is no right or wrong, good or bad, attachment or aversion. Those were things that we were talking a little bit about in Tantra, but we're at the point where those simply don't exist anymore from the view of Dzogchen. Here you transcend even the concept of good and bad. It reminds me of the saying from William Shakespeare in Hamlet, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So we create good and bad through our thoughts and our understanding and our relationships with other beings. In his treatise on the Middle Way, Madhyamaka Nagarjuna explains it in terms of the tetralemma, and based on the teachings of the Buddha. The transcendent wisdom is not a thing. It is not nothing or no thing. It is not both, and it is not neither. So we just eliminated all of the conceptual ways that we could understand logically what it is that we're talking about here. It's transcendent, more like what we see in the Heart Sutra. It's not this, not that. We don't say what it is, we say what it is not. So it's beyond logic and beyond thought. It's just simply is. That's it. Thus, we often use words like suchness to reference this, or blank, nothing, that is truly ineffable beyond description. So this does not mean that you are free to simply do anything that you want to do, independent of how that affects others. And of course, ethics have to do everything with how we relate and interact with others. If there were no others, of course, there would be no point of ethics. Probably never would have developed the concept of ethics on our own because it relates to others. So we keep in mind the four reliances that we talked about before. We're all interrelated, interconnected, interdependent. And so that's a key here, understanding ethics in general, but also within the concept of Dzogchen, where we say, well, there really are no rules, so to speak. But it turns out that that's not entirely true. So we need to look at that, examine that. So the principles that we talked about before still apply. The ones in terms of dependent the ones in terms of the path of individual liberation, the path of the Bodhisattva, the path of Tantra, all of those rules still apply, even though specific precepts may be transcended for the purpose of our spiritual development. Remember, Padmasambhava said, my view is as vast as sky, my behavior is as fine as barley flour. And that distinction between the two is very important in Dzogchen because there's a tendency to just look at the first part and forget the second part. So this asserts a difference between ultimate and relative truths. So the vast as sky is the ultimate, related to the ultimate, and the fine as barley flour is related to the relative. Being without attachment and aversion is the view of Dharmakaya, while behaving in the manner of other vows to benefit other sentient beings is the Rupakaya, the form body of a Buddha. These are not either or, but both and. So we're bound by all of these depending on the text or the context. And so we're looking at these as one taste here. So the ethical view of great perfection can be slippery slope. We have to be kind of careful how we approach things on this. You've probably heard of crazy wisdom. That was a function in Tibet as a part of some of these practices and on the part of a few individuals. It wasn't a prominent thing. Where realized yogis may have culturally been culturally accepted in terms of these kinds of actions. So on one hand, there are no rules, no good or bad, but any practice can be done with pure view is an authentic practice, including freely enjoying sensual pleasures, being free from accepting and rejecting, engaging in sexual union, and so forth. There is a set of instructions from Longchenpa called the Cloud Banks of Necker that illustrate the transcendent view quite well, though they may require some explanation for beginners and others not familiar with this transcendent view. This is also in my book on the Dzogchen section. Emaho, the intention of Great Mother Dharmakaya, a reference to Samattabhadri. The heart of the 10 perfections, which are an elaboration of the 6 perfections we usually refer to, is enjoyment of profound wisdom. By genuinely ending up here, there's no one to see appearances. All arising is Dharmakaya's play. Illusions are the Lama's compassion. So go ahead and stir things up. Emaho, the intention of Lama Kunzang. This is Samattabhadra. So the first one was Samattabhadri, the female version, and Samattabhadra, the male version. The heart of the deity yoga's result is a non-fabrication in whatever arises, the transcendent. By genuinely ending up here, there is no one to be afraid of thought. Whatever happens is mental projection. Thoughts are the Lama's compassion. So go ahead and stir things up. Emaho, the intention of Lama Pema, Padmasambhava. The heart of all-embracing Ati Yoga, is enjoyment of your stainless mind, not being deluded. By genuinely ending up here, there is no one to perceive impurity. Stains are all Dharmata's play, the manifestations and play of the nature of reality, suchness or emptiness. Always of seeing are Lama's compassion. So go ahead and stir things up. Emaho, the practice of the woman Tsogyal, Yeshe Tsogyal. The heart of secret mantra is the single taste of joy and sorrow, non-dual. Since genuinely ending up here, there is no one to parse what's good and what's bad. They both enhance experience. Whatever appears is the Lama's compassion. So go ahead and stir things up. Emaho. So this short text points out how that these practices, from the Dzogchen view, result in transcending sense of self, I, me, mine, and as well as concepts normally taught as a result of that, which of course lead to our discontent. So from self arises the idea of me and mine, self, other, things that we desire, things that we are trying to achieve or get or have as our own. And so all of that craving and clinging that we have result in the dukkha, the suffering, and the dissatisfaction in our lives. So on the other hand, with transcendent wisdom, we are no longer bound by these concepts as concepts. So we're free to stir things up as they will no longer result in suffering. Of course, as pointed out below, we'll talk about this some more, we must be aware of the slippery slope of assuming that we can rationalize any behavior that we choose, even though it may be harmful to others. That is not the intention. Nevertheless, the ideas expressed here can be very liberating for those who truly understand. In addition, Padmasambhava gave instructions to his consort Yeshe Tsogyal that are helpful in a more complete understanding of this view. Your realization of the view's nature may be like an ocean, but still guard the relative cause and effect down to the finest detail. You may have understood the vast ocean of Dharmata's nature, but still keep an undistracted training like a pillar of gold. You may have realized the natural state of open mind, but still protect your samayas and precepts stable and undamaged. You may have gained the realization of the ocean-like Dharmata's nature, but still respect sublime masters as you would the crown of your head. Your loving heart may be free of partiality, but still fulfill the wishes of your companions and all your Dharma friends. You may have seen the equal nature of the Buddhas and all beings. Avoid like poison the 10 unwholesome deeds and their results. You may have realized the fact that Buddha is your mind, but still regard the sublime Yidam deity as dear as your own heart. You may have understood that suffering itself is greatest bliss, but still avoid creating all its causes, actions, and involvements. You may have transformed emotions into pristine wakefulness, but still avoid scorching your mind with flames of 3- and 5-fold poisons. You may have experienced non-action as the state of greatest ease, but still exert yourself in goodness with the utmost diligence. So it's contrasting these 2 points of view, just like in the sky view versus the barley flower view. And very similar, but bringing in more details along that path. So there are still consequences for our actions. And this is not Tibet either. Okay? Tibet has a different culture than we have. Even if you are able to sustain pure view and see all actions as pure as they are, others may not, since they are still bound in samsara. This may lead to a wide variety of problems in your life and for those others. We've got 2 sets of rules, and we're disagreeing with each other on those rules. If, for example, you take the position that the other may want, that there are no barriers in having sex with another, and you do that, a spouse or significant other may want a divorce or break up the relationship. Even if you are able to maintain a state of no attachment or aversion under these circumstances, the ideal here, your actions have resulted in a great deal of harm to others, and you may have accrued negative karma. So while no rules may sound good, it's never that simple. Pick your poison carefully. In addition, to the extent that you do engage in these activities, it is important to be discreet. Show respect for others as well as the Dharma. So now there are some specific Ati Yoga or Dzogchen vows as well. And so I want to go through those. They're divided into 2 categories. There's a general category first, which is also then subdivided into body, speech, and mind. And then within those, there's an outer, inner, and secret level. So we've got compounded levels here going on. So starting with the body, the outer one is do not steal, engage in sexual misconduct, or kill. So even though we're talking about Dzogchen, those vows still apply. At the inner level, do not disrespect your parents, Vajra brothers and sisters, your own body, teachings or other individuals, one's own body through beating or extreme asceticism. At the secret level, do not threaten to strike Tantric brothers or sisters or mock their ornaments. Do not strike one's Tantric consort or be mischievous towards the master's consort. Do not step on the shadow of the master. Now, that's not one we hear about quite often, but there's in some of the old versions. Or be irreverent in his or her presence. In terms of speech, at the outer level, do not lie, slander others, or revile others. At the inner level, do not rebuke or slander those who impart the teachings, those who ponder and the content of the teachings, those who meditate on the abiding nature of reality. At the secret level, do not have contempt for or transgress the words of Tantric brothers and sisters, the words of the Master's consort or his close attendants, the Master's teachings. At the mind level, on the outer level, do not be malicious, envious, or hold wayward views. At the inner level, do not be unconscientious, mistaken conduct, fall into the sway of dullness, excitement, and deviant impediments, mistaken meditation, or adhere to the extremes of eternalism or nihilism, mistaken views. At the secret level, to cultivate in every part of the day the view, meditation, and action. Practice deity yoga, especially guru yoga, a very important practice in the Dzogchen practice. Cultivate mystic union with the Master. That's the union of the in guru yoga between the disciple and the Master, come together in union. And then love for tantric brothers and sisters. The second general category is the 4 exceptional pledges. So the first group were the general ones, and these are considered the exceptional ones, which are divided into 2 parts, one for Trekcho and one for Togao. So in terms of Trekcho, the essence of primordial purity, there are 2 parts: to liberate oneself from grasping to the perceived reality of ongoing phenomena by realizing that everything that manifests as the environment and inhabitants is primordially non-existent. Not as it appears to be. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all, but it doesn't exist as it appears to exist. And then to liberate projected appearances by cultivating natural intrinsic awareness, rigpa, without grasping at the concept of an observer. So self, other, observer, observed, subject, object, those kind of things. Those are all in our mind. And then at the Togao level, the natural expression of spontaneous accomplishment, to disengage from an outer spiritual quest, confident in the realization that Buddhahood is to be actualized within oneself. So we do outer kinds of things, outer practices and so forth, but it really comes back to what's inside. Through continuous cultivation of the 4 visionary appearances, the 4 visions of sky gazing in the Togao practice, things appear as outer, but they are really inner experiences. All experiences are actually in our mind. The manifestation of inner radiance of the 5 colored lights, the 5 colored lights being a part of the sky gazing practice. And then the second part for Togao, to arrive in primordial exhaustion of phenomena into reality through the confident realization that all occurrences and manifestations, thoughts, events, feelings, circumstances, appearances, are solely natural, pristine awareness. So doing the right thing is largely a matter of motivation and intention. You can't always be sure. Sometimes it's difficult to really know for sure that what we intend to do is actually the best thing or will get the best result. So here it's best if you just trust your intentions. The Buddha emphasized that very heavily, that especially in terms of karma is very closely related with the idea of ethics. So trust your intentions and follow the guidelines. So follow these is not a guarantee, but they have been shown to be very beneficial in the practice of millions over thousands of years. So in that sense, it is a good foundation for us. There is a risk, however, that you may use these guidelines in a way that simply rationalizes doing something that you want to do based on your ordinary attachments and aversions, your habitual tendencies. So that necessitates that we do something on a regular basis that we probably aren't used to doing. And that is, we have to be constantly aware of our choices and question our motivation and our intention. So anytime we're looking at doing things, any action actually, but particularly when we're doing things that interact with others in some way, we need to think about those things. Sometimes using the ultimate view as the basis of our actions in samsara is simply a rationalization. If I use pure view as a reason to drink alcohol or have sex, then I'm rationalizing. If, however, I genuinely see alcohol as nectar and illusory, then it doesn't matter if I drink it or water. I have no attachment or aversion, no preference one way or the other. Similarly with sex, if I maintain pure view during sex or follow the guidelines of the Lama for the practice of sexual yoga without any attachment or aversion, then it will not affect my karma. But if I'm just using no attachment and aversion as a concept to rationalize my desire to have sex, then it can have consequences for me and or others, which of course comes back to me. So there are maybe many cases where circumstances and the view of yourself and others are such that you can engage in crazy wisdom and cross the line, but rationalization is a very slippery slope. So beware. It is important to maintain your view when dealing with others, no matter how pure your view is. So there are 3 commentaries that I wanted to share that express this from 3 of the greatest of all Dzogchen masters, Padmasambhava, Longchenpa, and Jigme Lingpa. And so the Padmasambhava one I repeated before, but let me just put it in the context of these 3 once again. My view is vast as the sky, my behavior as fine as barley flour. And then Longchenpa, one must neither mix them nor disparage the observances of the lower vows. If the observances of the 3 vows are in conflict, the person concerned must chiefly act according to the mantra point of view, the higher level. The 3 vows would be the vows associated with the individual liberation, the vows associated with Bodhisattva, and then the vows associated with Tantra, including Dzogchen. Thus enhancing the lower vows as to their purpose and remedial function. When, however, one is in a public situation, one should guard against all the downfalls, viewed differently at the 3 levels of the vows, separately and without confusing them. So you have to keep in mind those lower vows, especially in public. And if the observances are in conflict, one should principally act according to the 2 lower vows. For the mantra view is very secret, and to act with such discretion enhances the purpose of not causing others to lose faith. So causing others to lose faith is a violation of one of the Tantric, or Dzogchen, actually technically the Tantra vows. So we have to be very careful about doing that. And it's better to follow the lower vows in that condition. Jigme Lingpa, in his Treasury of Precious Qualities, says observance should be appropriate to the moment. Generally speaking, from the level of a beginner up to that of an accomplished yogi, the behavior of practitioners should be appropriate to their capacity and also to their situation in which they find themselves. In the midst of gathering of people, they should act impeccably and with care and concern for others, as the Guhya Samaja Tantra says, be outwardly like Shravakas and inwardly enjoy the quintessential meaning. The perfect Buddha, the lotus-born Guru, has said the same. That was that statement that I read first. When a yogi, goes on, is engaged in secret practice, actions that are considered downfalls on all levels of vows should be rejected totally. However, in the case of those vows that may be assessed differently at different levels, or in the case of one who is training in fearless and unconventional yogic activities, preference should be given to the mantra point of view. Although in no case should the lower vows be disparaged. Since the practitioners here are acting with the means and wisdom of the higher vows, no fault is committed. Nevertheless, if their behavior is liable to give scandal to ordinary people and cause them to lose faith, they should adhere to the precepts of the lower vows. Once again. So all three of those great masters say basically the same thing. Follow the highest level vows to the level of your practice, unless it's going to cause problems for people that are ordinary public or people at lower levels of practice and so forth that are not familiar with those. So the higher level ones are to be kept secret as a part of that. So to conclude, I want to talk just a little bit about skillful means as a way of helping address some of these issues. Because Buddhism treats ethical principles as guidelines rather than hard and fast rules, there's another overriding principle necessary to describe these three great masters. This is skillful means. Previously, I mentioned the first 5 of the 6 perfections are sometimes referred to as skillful means. Those are generosity, ethics, patience, persistence, joyful effort, and concentration. In this case, the term is applied to the context of ethical conduct. To avoid the slippery slope of real rationalizations, you can apply the principle of skillful means to help determine how and when to apply and make exceptions to the basic guidelines. Motivation and intention become important considerations. You also need to ensure that you are not falling into the abyss of rationalization. But lying in order to save another's life is an example of skillful means. But you won't always know. For this reason, there are lamas who will argue that you are simply too ignorant to decide what is skillful and what is not until you attain liberation. On the surface, this may be sound and may even be legitimate in guiding our behavior. Nevertheless, it can also lead you down the path of not doing good for the benefit of others. So that becomes another form of rationalization in that context. So perhaps this is why the Dalai Lama makes a very strong case for the importance of altruistic intention, your ethical intention in deciding upon your actions of thought, word, and deed each and every day. You do the best you can with what you do know, grounded in your altruistic intention to benefit others. This is skillful means. So Buddha described his path as the 3 trainings: ethics, meditation, and wisdom. The purpose of wisdom is to realize the view. The purpose of the view is to enhance our meditation. The purpose of meditation is to guide our actions of body, speech, and mind. So these are not just some old rules or guidelines to follow. They are at the very heart of what Buddhism is all about. Dukkha, suffering, discontent, are the result of our views and actions, our karma. So Buddhism can be said to be all about ethics in a way. Everything else comes into that framework of ethics, our actions. And then with loving kindness and compassion, of course, for all sentient beings. So may these talks enrich your Dharma practice in your body, speech, and mind. And we will have a complete copy, a written copy of that available on our website within a week or so. And if you care to download that and take a look at it in a text format, then that will be available soon. So now we conclude our practice for this morning with the going back to the closing prayers in the text here. Starting with the blessing musical chant. Om Aum Shri 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 Om Aum long life prayers, first for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of every benefit and bliss without exception. Tenzin Gyatso, you who are one with Avalokiteshvara, may you remain steadfast until samsara's end. Khenpo Lama Rinpoche, in the Dharma Dhatu, appearing as Amitabha, in the Sambhogakaya form as Wisdom Buddha Manjushri, Padmasambhava's heart son Sangha Yeshe, incarnated as Padmatana Lingpa in a previous life and Palje Padorje in this lifetime, may your life be longer than the duration of samsara, so that all your virtuous intentions can be accomplished. Please give me your heart blessings so that my mind is united with yours in the Buddha nature, so I pray. Yogi Khenpo Drimed Dawa, Emaho. You understand the knowable objects of samsara, great teacher. You have realized the intent of the sacred Dharma, Yogi Khenpo. Your Dharma practices unification of the two. Khenpo Drimed Dawa, stainless moon, may you live long. And then the wish for bodhicitta. Om Ahom Shri Ananta Benza Sarvasiddhi Pala Hom Ah. Glorious, precious root Lama, sit on the lotus seat on the crown of my head. With your great kindness, please accept me. Please bestow the realizations of body, speech, and mind, and all the activities of the glorious Lama. May no wrong view arise even for a moment. By the devotion of seeing whatever he or she does as perfect, may the blessing of the Lama enter my mind. Throughout the succession of my lives, from the perfect Lamas, may I never be separated, and enjoying the glory of the Dharma, perfect all qualities of the stages and the paths, and swiftly attain the stage of Vajratara. The Lamas who have become the glory of the Dharma, may their lives be stable. May the land be entirely filled with doctrine holders. May the wealth and power of the patrons of the doctrine increase, and may the auspiciousness of the doctrine remain forever. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise, where it is born, may not, but ever increase higher and higher. I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, thank you all for your participation today, including those of you online or watching the video later. In terms of announcements, we have our practice coming up, our Dakini Day practice coming up on Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and so we'll be doing a tsok along with that. And Labab Duchen is one of the four key celebrations in the Tibetan Buddhist calendar, and so we'll be doing a special practice associated with that as well as a part of that. So join us for that Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. For those of you online, we'll also be broadcasting that on Facebook Live. And then we'll be continuing again next week. I'm going to do a Dharma talk on the Heart Sutra. And so that will be the main focus of the Dharma talk part of our practice next week. So join us for that as well. Heart Sutra is one of the most beloved of all of the sutra teachings, and practiced regularly, recited regularly by almost all of the Buddha traditions. And so please abide softly and deeply in pure awareness with loving kindness, compassion for all sentient beings, always and always. So thank you, and please be safe.